All right, my friends, in this video, I want to share my quick process for planning food for a 5-day backpacking trip. So as I'm recording this, I'm getting ready to guide for 3 weeks in Escalante, Utah, and this is going to include 2 5-day trips and a 7-day trip. So I want to walk you through how I planned out 3 weeks worth of food in under an hour, basically. So I'm going to share my screen and walk you step by step through how I decide how much food to take, what types of food to take, and then how this results in from my spreadsheet, a grocery list and a packing list, basically, for when I'm getting ready to head out the door. So a few things I want to share first. For these trips, the guiding company provides breakfast and dinners. So that's about 1,000 calories worth of food per day. So you'll see me take that into account in my planning spreadsheet. And the planning spreadsheet that I'm going to share is mainly for my snacks and lunches. But the overall process is the same, regardless of whether I'm planning a whole day's worth of food or what you'll see here are just my snacks and lunches. And I'm sharing with you in the hopes that it will help you in your meal planning as well. So the other thing about this is that I needed to get the planning done relatively quickly. So I didn't have time to dehydrate my own meals or even to purchase dehydrated bulk ingredients from an online retailer somewhere, locally, and to assemble those at home, which is something that I often do to have control over what goes into my meals as well as to keep things healthy. So to keep things convenient, all the food that you'll see in the spreadsheet that I'm going to share is all things that I just purchased locally or at Costco. And as shocking as this may be, this was not my first time shopping at Costco, but my first time that I got a Costco membership because I wanted to see if, it would save me money while I'm planning backpacking food and just how that would go. So we'll see what happens. To be honest, I'm honestly not so sold on it so far, but that's another story. So we'll see. So a lot of people I know find food planning overwhelming. And what I notice the most is that people will tend to overpack their food. A lot of people fear going hungry. So they just pack a ton of food, or they have no concept of how many calories they use, or they don't calculate calories at all. And they just kind of spread their food out and look at it and hope for the best. And often people will end up burning way too much. And of course, that means you're packing too much weight on your back because, you can have a really detailed gear list and have it all dialed in down to the ounce. And, you'll see a lot of people spending hundreds of dollars to save a few ounces off of their base weight. And then they'll pack, a pound or 2 pounds or even more than that, way too much food. So that's why I think taking a little time to plan out your food is really important because you have control over what you eat. You don't have to second guess yourself. You don't have to worry about going hungry. And you also don't have to worry about overpacking and carrying way too much food. So that's what we're going to cover here with this quick and simple planning process. So we'll dive in and I will share my screen so that you can see my basic planning spreadsheet that I use for almost every single trip. Awesome. Okay. So just to start, I will say this is not necessarily the healthiest meal plan that I've ever put together, but it's also not bad. It's gluten-free, which is important for me for health reasons. If I wanted to also be dairy-free, I could swap out the Kirkland protein bars, which have whey, for a different kind of protein bar. I could swap out the cheese whisps right there for other foods that have fat and protein, such as Epic bars or Wild Sour bars and almonds, for instance. So obviously there's a lot of play in this, and I could swap out foods to make it a little healthier to meet my goals, which I'm going to go over in a minute. And though this contains foods that are processed, which is kind of just inherent with backpacking foods to some extent, the choices that I went with, you'll notice, are largely organic and or non-GMO, or they contain fewer ingredients than other choices that I could have made in the same category. So for example, with the organic chips, those are organic sweet potato chips that just have sweet potatoes, coconut oil, and sea salt, rather than like the 40 plus ingredients in other brands of chips, for instance. So this health part is all with the goal of limiting inflammation so that my body can perform optimally while I'm hiking and can recover optimally from day to day. And so you'll notice that this is my whole meal plan for 5 days. And I do it in 5 days blocks rather than day by day, because I just want to know that I have enough calories for the whole trip and that the macronutrient ratios are correct over the whole trip. And I trust that it's going to balance out day by day. So I might eat more one day and less the next day, but I know over the 5 days that I have enough calories and also that I'm not packing way, way too much. I also tend to eat a lot of the same foods or similar foods from day to day. So planning for the whole 5 days at once works for me. So for example, I know if I bring like 4 of these builder bars, I'm going to eat one of them per day. And it doesn't really matter if I'm eating like the peanut butter one on day 1 and the chocolate mint on day 3, for example. So I don't plan down to that detail. So at the top of this spreadsheet, you will see the trip length. And for this one, it's 4.5 days. And then the next line you see is my calorie goal for the 5 days. So I know from calculations and past experiences, I eat about 2,100 to 2,200 calories per day on a trip like this that's not going to be like extremely strenuous. And that works for me because I'm not like deep into a through hike where I'm eating much more than that. So I know for the 4.5 days, 9,700 would be my total calorie goal. Minus the 4,500 calories that are in the provided meals leaves me with 5,200 for my lunches and snacks for this 5-day, 4.5 day plan right here. So that's what you're seeing there. And then the next line is my macronutrient targets. And I personally feel best on a moderate protein, moderate carbohydrate, and higher-ish fat diet when I'm hiking. So higher fat also works really well for backpacking because by carrying foods that are higher, have a higher calorie density, I can also reduce my pack weight. And if you're curious more about macronutrients for backpacking and calorie density of foods, I have a few other videos about that on my YouTube channel. I have some blog posts about that, and I go really deep into that in my backpacker meal planning and nutrition course, which I can talk about at the end of this video. So I also know that the meals that are provided by the guiding company, the breakfast and dinners, tend to be a little higher in carb and lower in protein. So I take that into account down here when I'm calculating my snacks and lunches for the day so that it's going to balance out again over the course of the whole day. So I'm packing a little higher protein and a little lower carb than I normally would because I know with the provided meals that's going to end up balancing out once those are taken into account for the day. So so I know my calorie goal for the meal plan. I know my macronutrient goals, and then I just start filling in food. So I will pull from my food library. So this is on this tab down here. I have a few of these filled in, but I have much more on another spreadsheet. So you can pull from a food library like that you just fill in over time as you continue to use this spreadsheet and this template over and over again. And I fill in these like calories per serving, the macronutrients, how much fat, carbon, protein grams per serving. If you want to fill in like potassium and sodium, so you know what electrolytes you're getting, that can be helpful as well. So you can either fill these in from the label that's on the package of the food, which maybe you have it in hand, or you can look online. It's pretty easy if you just Google like whatever the food is, like Cliff Bar nutrition info, and then look at the images and you'll see right there like, oh, it has this many calories per serving, fat, carbs, protein. And it might sound a little tedious, but once you do it once and you have it in your food library, it's really easy because then you just like copy and paste from here into this meal planner spreadsheet, and you'll notice that these columns, the order which they go in are the same that are right here. And once you have that basic nutrition information filled in, and the foods, the general idea of foods you want to eat, you just fill in the number of servings that you want to carry with you to help you meet your calorie goal and then to help you hit these macronutrient ratios. So hopefully this is making sense. So basically I just pulled from my food library of foods that I know that I like to eat. I filled them in here until it added up to my calorie goal and the macronutrient ratio that I described that I was aiming for. And you'll notice that I went a little over on the calories because I do like to carry a little bit extra in case I end up hungrier than I expected to be. or, maybe I get stuck out a little bit longer than I expected to be. So I'll pack, maybe 400 or 500 calories extra. I also like to keep in mind that I want to include a good mix of foods that I'm going to want to eat for snacks, such as bars, as well as like more lunch type foods, such as maybe like jerky or tuna or chips or nut butter, things like that. I also want to include a mixture of flavors and textures, such as salty, sweet, crunchy, smooth. I personally tend to prefer savory, so I favor that in my meal plans. And then once I've added enough food to hit my goals, I can use this as a shopping list, either by referencing like the number of servings carried here, or by going into this tab down at the bottom, which auto populates with the foods from this tab, as well as the amounts that I need. And then if you can do like you can inventory if you have existing food on hand, and that will tell you how much to purchase. You can use this to mark whether you've purchased or not, the date, and even like how much, where you got it from, how much it is per unit. So you could get as detailed with that part of it as you want, or you could just simply use this as like a very basic shopping list. And then, okay, I need this much of the turkey jerky, this much of the chips, and take it from there. And that's pretty much it. That's my quick and easy process for meal planning. Once you get a little bit of experience with it, it goes really fast. You can obviously tailor it to your own needs, to your own dietary preferences. If you have any food restrictions, to your own just like taste preferences, you can make it as healthy or as unhealthy as you want. And that's really it. It can be pretty simple. And again, it gives you the benefit of not having to doubt what you're doing. You can take exactly the amount of food that you know that you need for yourself. And it can be all laid out there in a very organized way. And then you can use this as a shopping list and a planning list. So if you would like to replicate this process for yourself, this is all laid out step by step in my performance nutrition and meal planning for backpackers course. So this template is included there along with several other templates, such as for how to like create a healthy balanced meal for steady energy, how to calculate your macronutrients. The course walks you through basically like figuring out your calorie needs, your macronutrient targets, choosing a cooking style if you don't know that already, choosing a resupply plan if you're doing a long trail, how to create a balanced meal for optimal energy and endurance, some health tips so that you can stay healthy over the course of a long hike and have a better chance of finishing your hike. I teach you how to create your own healthy, easy recipes, where to shop in bulk if you want to do that, or some resources for learning how to dehydrate your own meals if you want to do that, and then how to put it all together into a meal plan, similar to what you're seeing here, or you could do it. I teach you how to break it down day by day if that's your preference, and much more. So I will link that course below this video. So if that's something you're interested in, you can check it out there. And of course, if you have any questions, you can just reach out to me and let me know. So I hope that this was helpful for you, and hopefully, it'll serve you as you go to plan your own meals for your next trip and your many trips after that. And I'll see you next time.